Hello and welcome to today's Zwift workout. Got a bunch of VO2 max intervals. Start off with an easy warm-up though. Hello, Uncle Daz. Good to see you today. Did you ride today? You're gonna ride later, maybe? Nice. Pretty comfortable ride. I always love those 90-minute endurance rides. It's really nice mentally, just especially at the end of a long day or something like that. What were the intervals yesterday? Oh man, 2 by 20-minute FTP. Those are brutal. I can't remember the last time we did a workout like that. How were the intervals? How'd they feel? For FTP intervals, I usually do over-unders rather than like a steady 2 by 20 minutes. So over-under FTP session, I would do 3 minutes under threshold, 1 minute over threshold. Repeat that 4 or 5 times. So by the end of that, you have a 15 or 20-minute block. But most of it is going to be under threshold. So it's a little bit more comfortable. It's a little bit more repeatable, but then you get those spikes above threshold, which simulates much more of a race type situation where you can't just ride at 100% FTP for 20 minutes straight unless you're doing a time trial, which especially indoors, they're so rare nowadays. So that's what I would do for one of those sessions. Maybe it'd be 93% FTP for the 3 minutes under, and then 1 minute over FTP at 105, 110% FTP. for those punches. And you can definitely play around with that too. You can make it a lot closer, so 97% FTP, 103% FTP, or you can also make it much more explosive, like 85% FTP, like sweet spot, and then 120, 130% FTP on the overs, which is almost like an attacking style workout. Oh man, the trainer needed calibrating for the workout. That sounds rough. Yeah, definitely had those days before where you lower the FTP bias by 5 or 10% and it's still like an all-out effort. In hindsight, most of those sessions, when it's that bad, when the legs and the power are that far off of the target, it's probably better to skip the intervals, just ride zone 2 instead, or just end the ride early if you really don't feel good. It's better to just recover at that point. Hey Milan, good to see you. How's the training been this week? Yeah, I definitely hope the legs are decent today. First really hard training session for a few weeks. Maybe I'm forgetting one, but there's been so much racing. Just been doing like zone 2, zone 3 in between, and zone 1 of course. So if you have 2 interval sessions per week, the goal is to increase FTP and zone 2, but not race-specific training. My favorite thing to do there would be focus on VO2 max and zone 2. So I wouldn't do a lot of work in between. So I would do VO2 max intervals like 40-20s, 30-30s, 30-15s, kind of like this workout today. Very similar to that. And then steady efforts or spiked efforts between 2 and 5 minutes, around there. Doing a bunch of repeats of those. I would do that style of intervals, and then the zone 2 intervals. You could do steady zone 2, like 65 to 70% FTP for 2, 3, 4 hours, depending on how much time you have. Maybe just an hour if you're time crunched. And then you could also do LT1 intervals, which I would usually do 5 to 20 minute blocks of LT1 at 75% of FTP. Watch your heart rate on those though. If you're less well trained, your heart rate's going to climb a lot. So maybe do 70 or 72% FTP. But if your aerobic engine is really strong, you can do 75%. That'll be the target for me at the end of this session today. I would focus on those. There's a ton of other intervals that you can do, but I would start there. That's true, Milan. Most people would do 3 by 5 minutes of 30-30s or 40-20s. I like to do them all in one workout. Tater tot, the cat tater tot. Oh man. Yeah, you're welcome, Judah. I hope Tater Tot is doing well. Yeah, the only thing I don't have in today's session, Milan, is the 30-15s. Thought about putting those in there, but I chose the spiked VO2 instead. Thanks to Paul Skierski for the interval idea at the end here. Gonna try those for the first time today. It's a good question, Uncle Daz. I don't have this workout available in a training plan yet. It will be one day though. I'll keep updating my training plans on Training Peaks. I have a couple of esports specific training plans right now on my Training Peaks profile. So you can just Google Zach Nair Training Peaks coach, and on there you'll find some of these workouts that I'm talking about, and then the newer ones I'll keep posting regularly and adding new training plans and workouts on there. So you can always look out for those. Sometimes I'm just doing an experimental session, one that I haven't even given to one of my athletes yet, but I like to test it myself first to see if it's a good one, to see if it's too hard, too easy, if it hits all the zones that I want, if I need to adjust the recovery, things like that. I know there's a lot of coaches that are experienced 50 or 60-year-old former racers, but I like being able to do the training that I'm giving to my athletes, to test it out, see if it makes sense or if it's too hard. You're welcome, no problem. Heart rate's a little bit higher than expected, but I'll know how the legs are once I do these 4-minute tempo intervals, just to open up the legs a little bit. Thank you, Lucas, I appreciate it. That's a very good question about the type of VO2 intervals here. I would say for it to be VO2, the key is that you want the power to be above FTP, but you're not doing an all-out sprint either. So for me, if my FTP is around 400 watts, VO2 max intervals, probably get aimed for between 450 and 550, somewhere around there. If I get up towards the 600 watts, that's more of a zone 6 anaerobic interval, much less sustainable. But I would say both of those styles work. If you're doing short VO2 intervals like 1 minute or 2 minute, I would focus on recovery that is half the length of the work interval. So 1 minute at VO2 max, 30 seconds rest, and then right back to 1 minute VO2. Same with 2 minutes, you can do 2 minutes on, 1 minute off, 2 minutes on. Whereas once you get to 3 to 4 minutes, that's more of a pure VO2 interval by itself. So you could do 4 repeats of 3 minutes VO2 max. And that would be, you wouldn't have to do 90-second rest. The interval is going to be hard enough at VO2 max, so you can do 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off, repeat that a few times. Yeah, Milan, it's all part of the research that I do. I call it research, it's just me doing what I love to do. Browsing Strava, listening to coaches, talking to coaches, rider interviews, podcasts, so much stuff out there, but not a lot of it is right out in the open, so you have to go find those workouts, those training sessions, the style of intervals that they do. So in a minute here, minute 20 seconds, get into the first tempo interval. It's going to be kind of just like a leg opener for the rest of the workout. 4 minutes at 310, just above my zone 2. You're welcome. Anytime. That's a great question. I think I'll do this first one out of the saddle, second one in the saddle. See how different the feeling in the heart rate is. R? Is there R? I should know. Podcast. At the moment, I host the Ruby podcast. I don't have a podcast of my own, but the Ruby podcast, I believe there's 4 or 5 episodes out right now. So you can listen to those. You can also listen to any of my old podcasts. I've done a few with a bunch of different hosts. And then one of my favorites is How to Become a Pro Cyclist. That one's definitely top notch. Yeah, the Ruby ones are coming soon. Don't worry. Very soon. how to become a pro cyclist is I listen to it on Spotify. It's not on YouTube. It might be on Apple Podcasts, but I listen to it on Spotify. Very, very good. The Kevin Vermark episode is probably the best one. It's almost 4 hours if you need something to listen to for a while. It's really, really, really good. Thank you, Lucas. I appreciate it. I'm still trying to get that code. I'll post it once I have it. Still working on that, but I'll definitely share it. I'll probably get on Ruby tomorrow for some heat training. Heart rate is nice and stable, low 140s. I want to switch the wheels here in a second. Oh wait, I forgot to switch the wheels. Oops. Here, let's see. I want the envies. There we go. I'm gonna go up the climb portal once I get around to it. So, got one more opener interval and then onto the climb. All right, here we go. That's a good question, Milan. I definitely did not imagine it. I mean, I remember in college, this was, how long ago? How long ago was college? 2016, I think. 2016, I did a 5-minute power test. It was like 400 watts, 405 watts. And I was probably 63 kilos at the time. So 9 kilos lighter than now, which is quite a bit, but still, it wasn't a crazy number. I wasn't pushing world-class watts per kilo. And nowadays, 400 watts is about what I can do for half an hour at the end of a race. So, and then my 5-minute, I mean, I did 490 for 4 minutes the other day. So in a fresh effort, 500 for 5 minutes, probably pretty close to that. So it's almost 100 watts, which with a 9 kilo gain, it's totally worth it, especially in situations where raw power and speed outweighs watts per kilo, which is most indoor and gravel racing. You should be able to search for the episodes. The one with Kevin Vermark. I can't remember when that was exactly. It was, I want to say, like the end of summer. Maybe it was last year, but maybe it was 2024. It was a while ago. You should be able to like search on Spotify, Kevin Vermark Cycling Podcast. I'm sure he hasn't done that many. Oh no. I wish. I hope to be on that podcast one day. That would mean I'm a very successful rider or coach. Yes. He's on the UAE team now. Which is going to be very interesting to watch this year. How that switch is for him. Going from one of the best riders on a relatively weak team to one of the probably middle of the road riders on arguably the best team in the world. Yeah, I think he'll definitely win some stages, win a World Tour race this year. Probably not a monument, but definitely a smaller race, I think. Like Tour of Poland, definitely capable of winning a stage there. I mean, at Norway last year, I think he was he fourth overall, fourth in GC? Let's see about the Rocca Corba. I'll probably turn back down the mountain when I get to the recovery intervals, the 195 watts. But I always like doing intervals on a climb. Just more motivating, easier to focus. That's funny, Milan. All right, here we go. Thank you, Lucas. Good to know. Yeah, Milan, I love that too. Especially the Alp. My finger stuck. Ah. Getting hard now. That was hard. Thank you, Milan. Five-minute recovery now. The first half felt easy of that set. Second half, very hard. I'll have a gel, see if I feel better after that. In case anyone's wondering, I use the feed for nutrition. I get SIS gels, Morton gels, Morton mix, that kind of stuff. That's pretty much what I use for all of my fuel, for racing and training. I actually never turned that fan on. I missed the setting. No wonder I kind of overheated. It's one of those days where, honestly, I can't really tell if I feel good or bad. The legs seem pretty good, but I feel a little bit tired. Muscles are a bit sore. So we'll see. If I have to turn down the FTP bias, that's okay. I'll use this little plateau section on the climb to recover a bit. go for round 2. 10 minutes of 30-30s. I stand most of the time if it's zone 4 or above. Really hard to do over 400 in the saddle. I'll train that more for gravel season. I'll try this next one seated. you. Nice. recovery left. Heart rate came down pretty nicely there, into the 120s. It's a good sign. Hopefully the gel has kicked in for the end of this workout. Got 2 5-minute blocks here. It's a kind of a spiked VO2, spiked threshold. I've never done this exact interval before. 30 seconds into 2 minutes, tiny bit of rest, and then do it again. So we'll see how it goes. I know that I should expect it to be horrible so that I'm not surprised if it is. Some of the hardest intervals are the ones that I thought were going to be not too bad, and then I got halfway through and it was a 10 out of 10 full gas, and mentally that's really hard. So here we go. Now I don't get full recovery here. Straight into above threshold. I should just go straight into the interval. Let's do it. 2 minutes recovery. Here we go. That's a good question. They should be the same. They should all be from the trainer. The app shouldn't matter. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. You're welcome. Let's go big. Yeah. Let's see what we can do. This is Roca Corba in Watopia today. That's a good question that I'll answer in 2 minutes. Thank you. Felt good. Felt really good after the gel. That last interval was just to prove to myself that I can do these numbers seated. Most of the time on the indoor trainer, it's just easier, more comfortable to do it standing out of the saddle, lower cadence. So to the question about an aero penalty in e-racing, yeah, it definitely would change racing a lot, because a lot of riders, they just stay out of the saddle the whole time to maximize their power output. And I get it. I've done it many times, but that's how it is right now. I think it'd be hard to implement that change to everyone, but for in-person e-racing, like the World Championships, it'd be easier to implement, but it would have a huge impact. It would really change the sport, which could be a good or bad thing. Right now I'm using Bluetooth with race mode on. So I've used Ethernet direct connect before, but right now the Bluetooth seems to work 99.99% of the time. I probably have one dropout every month or two for like 3 or 4 seconds, and that's it. But I am moving soon, so with the new setup in the new room, I'll have to test all those connections, make sure they're all good to go. The last thing you want during my Wooch SRC at 4 in the morning with all the race prep is to get a dropout in a key moment, have your race be over just like that. So the last interval we have 12 minutes, high zone 2, so 12 minutes, 295 watts. I'll see how the heart rate response is and the feeling too, because I felt really good with those last intervals, but zone 2 can feel a bit different sometimes, so we'll see. Efficiency is really hard to guess. You would really have to measure it in a lab. I mean, it definitely, for a lot of riders, it can lower your heart rate and RPE, but it's less sustainable. So if you fatigue from it quickly, then it's not worth it. But if you're well trained with out of the saddle, low cadence, it can definitely be worth it. So it totally depends on the rider. It's kind of like outdoors. It's like saying, well, what's more efficient in a flat time trial on a road bike? Or like, let's say you're in a solo breakaway in a flat road race. It's like, well, is it better to do 300 watts in a super aggressive aero position, or 350 a little bit more upright or more comfortable? It really depends on the rider to see which one is faster and more sustainable. So far the legs are feeling okay for this interval. Obviously, some fatigue, but not a crazy amount. Yeah, for sure. Ollie Jones sits a lot. I would say he sits, as far as I've seen, 90 to 95% of the time in a race. Even at 500 or 600 watts, he'll be doing 90, 95 RPM in the saddle. I would say Kaminsky seems to sit quite a bit, but at a lower cadence, like 80, 85. Who else? Saeed Safrazada. He is seated most of the time, 80 to 90 RPM. So yeah, that's 3 of the top 15 guys in the world that all sit most of the time. And they're doing 7 watts a kilo for 10 minutes. So they're not sacrificing power. What's the peak 5 minute for this ride at the end? 440. That's very solid. High or low stack in outdoor racing? The boring answer is that it depends. But in general, as long as you can train to get yourself in a fast aerodynamic position, low stack in general will be faster. But that doesn't necessarily mean as low as possible. You definitely have to test it to make sure you're not losing both power and speed. And also test it for what you're training for. So if you're training for a 5-hour gravel race, you need to be able to ride in that position for 5 hours at race pace So you can't just do a 10-minute test around the block. You gotta test it for the demands of the race. The heart rate's a bit high, but the legs feel pretty good. I don't know exactly what his stack might be, but he has very short proportions, I'm pretty sure, for his height. So he's pretty compact. So he doesn't ride super aero, whereas someone like, look at Wout van Aert or Matteo Jorgensen, when they're in a breakaway and they're folded over the bars, but they're so tall. Those guys are like 6'1", 6'2", but they can get their shoulders and head and back so low. So it's much more crammed for their body, but they train it. Whereas Pogačar, he's kind of more upright, but his frame is just compact to begin with. Why am I riding such a low cadence? I try to do a minute or two at 95 RPM. It was good, Milan. I felt better in the second half for sure. Finished out the last interval at a higher target power than planned, but it wasn't quite all out either. Yeah, Pogačar he's built for cycling. His physiology has to be the best ever. I mean, I've heard the stories of him in his early years, like Team UAE 2019, where he wasn't even training that well. He wasn't crazy about his nutrition or anything, but he was still doing crazy numbers, dropping guys at training camp. Went to the Vuelta and was like one of the strongest guys in the race, not really even training properly. Yeah, there's that guy from RWB. Haven't seen him in a while. I get to enjoy this cool down. That was a hard session. Not crazy hard though. Kind of like I planned. It's probably 90 to 95% effort. Definitely not all out. But for a training ride, definitely hard. Yeah, Milan. It's really, really good. Trust me. You don't have to listen to it in one go. Give yourself like a week or two. There's so many different parts. I think I've listened to it twice. Gotten some really good ideas and workouts from there. AI summary off transcript. What does that mean? Oh, I got it. For the podcast. Yeah, you could definitely try that. I don't know if there's a full transcript for those episodes. There certainly might be, though. It's worth looking into. It's one of those things where if you have the time, the full episode is worth it. But if you don't have the time, a summary is good too. For an episode like that, it works out perfectly if I have a super long drive or travel, like a 6-hour flight or something. Something where I can just download it and listen to it while on the go. Or yeah, like a endurance ride, even in the summer outside. I don't listen to stuff anymore when I ride outside, but I used to quite a bit. Podcasts are just, and music outside are just too distracting for me now. But on the trainer, I can definitely listen to stuff like that. I should have switched to the disc wheels for that descent and the flat, but I finished my effort coming into the descent. Yeah, it's one of those things where like I love watching YouTube videos or Netflix on the trainer, but yeah, if I'm doing anything harder than 60% FTP, or yeah, 50, it's hard to focus. I can listen to stuff, but it's hard to watch stuff. That's all for today's session. That was very nice. The peak hour on that must have been like 320. Yeah. 324. 350 for half an hour. 14 minutes at 390. That must have been at the very end, yeah. Nice. When does the swimming training begin for the Madison Iron? Not yet. Not this year. Definitely in the future. I'll definitely do something like that. Definitely an Ironman one day. Not this year though. Committed to indoor and gravel and some road. Triathlon's in the future for sure though. Thank you all.